So hello everybody and welcome to the latest edition of Moons and Mythos. This is episode number 11 with myself, your host, David Farrell, and my wonderful, delightful co-host, Kelley Hunter, astrologer and mythologist. Hi Kelley, how are you, lovely?
Hi, I'm good. Been fairly smooth lately.
Well, I think that's always good. It's difficult to keep too smooth in these days, and we're going to be looking at what's going to be coming up over the next monthly moon cycles, with the new moon at 26 degrees of Gemini on June the 17th, and then the full moon at 11 degrees of Capricorn on July the 3rd. Now, we've been through some pretty tumultuous astrology already over the course of 2023, and well, I think over the last 3 years, but feels like now we might be moving into new territory, Kelley. I definitely have sensed many big shifts since our last show, individually and collectively. And today, as I was just saying beforehand, we launched the Rainbow Bridge, which in itself is quite a big deal. The content of that is in many ways helping to try and break down some of the difficulties and challenges we've all been facing over the last couple of years, really. So yes, I'm doing this show live from inside the Rainbow Bridge. So this is a wonderful opportunity to look at the astrology for these two big moments coming up over the next month. So where would you like to start today, Kelley?
Well, I agree with you, David, that this moon is much smoother than the last several, and it's of course leading right into solstice. So that's always a special moment, but there is some very light energy to this in some ways. So yeah, we can be happy for that. And yeah, the full moon is, on the eve of July 4th. That's a big day in the United States. So whatever that means to the larger picture. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, we're recording this edition today on the 13th of June. And actually, I've just got here in my astro diary coming up the very interesting prospect in 2 days of Sedna moving into Gemini. Now, obviously, we've talked about that before, but this is momentous stuff too, right?
It is. Well, Sedna has such a large orbit. It can be, in a sign for over 200 years, and it can be the orbit's 11 to 12,000 years or something along that line. So it's moving into a sign is a big deal, and it's closest that it's ever going to get in the sign of Gemini, which is it moving into. So it's as if Sedna is bringing these messages from way far out in the solar system, even beyond the Kuiper Belt, and she's bringing them right in Gemini to impact, our perception of things. And she has a lot to say, I think, in her own special way. And I know we want to do more on Sedna herself. When I'm working on a storyline for her that can, kind of guide the way.
Beautiful. Yeah, hopefully we'll be able to do one of our new deep dive pieces on Sedna in the very near future. I know we've been talking about it, and obviously with this momentous shift into Gemini, the timing is very opportune to see if we can take a bit more of a pulse on what Sedna wants to tell us. And in many ways, it reminds me of the sort of the photon belt that we're passing through at the moment, which is the capacity to receive messages from deep space, or maybe even from other realms, planetary embodiment of that energy in our solar system as we move into Gemini.
I think, David, even this new moon is saying that we're getting, really strong energies from far distant guidance and galactic wisdom. So we'll see that in this new moon chart, and then see what the full moon is saying too, as we go through this this road into and through solstice, one of those very strong moments, and there is energy opening up. So we are definitely, so let's look at the new moon. Okay,
let's bring it up. Yeah, I mean, between the cycles that we're talking about of the new moon and the full moon, of course, is the summer solstice, as in the northern hemisphere, or the winter solstice for those of you down under. So we've got this very powerful moment that I always think of as the apex of the light. For many years, I've done very powerful ceremonies working with the archangelic realms on solstice, because it is the pinnacle of that moment where the maximum amount of light can be brought forth before we start to slowly descend into the darkness again of the winter months. So I see that this sort of new moon is perhaps the lead-in and setup for the solstice.
Absolutely, in several ways, I think. But yeah, so we've got the the moon and the sun at 26 plus, and we have that's so closely opposite Varda. We've talked about Varda before, and this is what I was referring to. She's sending messages right through, messages of light, because she is the light bringer. She's bringing messages of light right through the Galactic Center. She's been there for, several months, and she's really tapping into the heart of the galaxy there, where all potentials are available, and sending out the highest light frequency that can be integrated at this point, I think. So this full moon, this is really happening here.
The new moon, rather. Yeah. So is Varda conjunct the Galactic Centre there, Kelley, at 27 degrees of Sag?
Yeah, well, it's 26 to 27, I believe. And so, yes. And we've also got this new moon squaring Neptune, as is Varda. So that is also in Pisces, its own sign. This is a very high vibrational energy that's also very much being received by this new moon. And, in Gemini, it's like, how are we understanding it? It's not going to be just with our logical mind or our left brain. We're going to have to use, some of the new neural pathways that are opening up. We're going to have to listen with different ears. We're going to have to use our senses and our heart to really understand, what's coming in here, to really feel that through and translate it to a usable way. Right. And not only, also we have the earth communicating. And just as I was getting this chart, together for our talk today, I realized that Ceres is at 29 Virgo. So she's making, we have a whole grand cross here of quite exquisite energies, very spiritual, but they're Ceres. It's the earth is grounding it too. And, I've been hearing there are crop circles going on in the south of England, and whatever other messages the earth is giving us. We are definitely, we can listen there. We can listen with our feet on the ground. We can listen to nature and all of the healing powers in nature, and what the natural cycles are also showing us and telling us in this amazing time that we're in.
Right. So maybe this is an opportunity for just to sort of pick your brains a little bit, as much for my own satisfaction as for the audience. But we have Ceres at 29 degrees of Virgo. And a Virgo is a sign very much connected to nature and the plants and so on, and healing. But somewhat so is Ceres, really. So would you say that this is a good fit? And Ceres being at that anaretic degree of 29 Virgo, to me, feels like a sort of amplification of all of that. Pretty coherent energy, but maybe you can share a bit more around that, Kelley.
Yes. Well, I don't think any of the asteroids rule anything, but yes, this is a very compatible placement for Ceres. And she is very much about earth energy, Gaia, the above the ground, the below the ground. And she is like how Mother Nature has everything under her umbrella of wellness. And often with Ceres, it's as if there's something's not being included in that, overview of wellness, and she will advocate for that. She will bring attention to that. So often there's that wanting to be of service, but to all. And it's not a choosy thing, all that is in nature is included, and that it's us, that's the crystals, that's the trees, that's, the rocks, that's everything on the earth is in this umbrella of wellness. So people who have a strong Ceres, for instance, might be an advocate for the wild horses that are being captured and killed, or it might be, somebody who works at the adoption agency for abandoned dogs or cats, or for a certain kind of group of people who are not being included in this circle of wellness.
Wow. I mean, that's just amazing, really, just to think about that energy and the time that we're in when we're talking about the issue of wellness and health, and perhaps, what we've been offered, and perhaps what we would want to choose for ourselves, and not always exactly in coherency with each other. And so what I'm getting from this really. I mean, I have Ceres on my DC in Virgo, so the energy is somewhat familiar to me. But it feels to me that we're being offered the potential to look at the whole of the energy of Virgo and its, attention to detail, particularly with health and wellness and the planet and the healing plants and so on and so forth. And because Ceres has all of those energies at 29 degrees of Virgo, I feel like we're being offered on this new moon the opportunity to fully look at all of that and decide on this new moon that maybe we're going to make different choices from here on, and that maybe we can dream of a different type of health and wellness. So I think that's super exciting. I like that one.
Yes, and we're not only thinking, with our head, where, this is our bodies have this intelligence in every cell. And I think Virgo is the sign most representative of that, the organic wisdom of our bodies for self-healing, and all of the plants and other substances that are natural cooperate with that, enhance that, give us more means and specifics to deal with. I think this is like the shaman's medicine bundle. What have you got in yours?
Right. And also, I'm just looking at this and I'm intrigued by opposing Neptune in Pisces, which also speaks of other types of substance use, maybe. So do you have anything is there a balancing of the seesaw there going on or something? Or how would you view that, Kelley?
Well, your body's going to respond if you overindulge in things that aren't good for you. But this is a very Neptunian infused, moon. And so it is kind of saying, look at where you might be indulging or denying, or, looking for some soothing that isn't really good for you, that could be toxic. Maybe. It's not the vibe for you. I've been having to douse almost everything I eat lately, just because I want to help my body get the finest, in spite of what I might want to eat, like another piece of chocolate or something, that I know right now is not the best thing for me, or at least in too much quantity. So, we're having to look at our Neptunian addictions, or the places where we allow ourselves to get distracted. Now that actually brings up the opportunity here to look at the Sabian symbols.
Yay.
Look at the one for Ceres.
Right.
Task to complete. A man doesn't look to any distractions.
Sounds very Virgo to me.
Yes, exactly. It's a task. And there's this opposite Neptune, which can be full of distractions. So ways in which, we could be attending, say, to our spiritual life or our spiritual practice, and we decide to go on the internet for another hour and get lost, or, certain things like that. And certain things, it's fine, to just chill and relax, but Neptune can get to a point where it's dysfunctional. And it's like overuse of drugs and such like that. And Virgo's like, let's go the natural route here. Just, lie on the ground for a bit. Just find a moment to sit under a tree. So I think it's saying, listen to your body in terms of what will soothe it, what will be good and healthy for it, so that your frequency receptors are refined and can tune in to these more beautiful and light-filled energies that are coming in, rather than the static. We might have a lot of static going on, and we need to kind of adjust the channel, which is, in fact, our bodies, we need to refine our bodies to be able to really receive these special energies that are coming through. And they're coming through from the Galactic Centre here. And that's been true, since the turning of the Mayan calendar. That's been very activated in the last couple of years. And Varda is, the Tolkien archangel who, with a circle of 14, came to help create the earth. And she brought the light. She's the light bringer. And in every era, she brings a new light. She brings a new light. So she's bringing a new light now from the Galactic Center, from the heart of the Milky Way. And this is going through the whole solar system. This is not just an Earth recepting moment. We're part of the larger body of the solar system. And I think we might, look at the series in relation to that. Earth is part of a larger body.
Beautiful, beautiful. And You know, there's so many things just popping into my mind as just listening to all, you know, all of that you just said there. And, you know, first of all, I'm just going to look at the series, because I think that to me, again, it's a very sort of dandelion motif. You know, the more present you are, the less you are distracted, because the thing you're doing is the most important thing that you're doing, and nothing should be distracting you. And when we do any activity in that way, whether it's work or play or creativity or any of the different things that we do, we can approach it in that way. And then this is a way that we step into our higher mind space as well by becoming present. So I love that motif there in Ceres, but I think I'm going to let you read the one out from Varda for the saving symbol, Kelley, because it's just too beautiful to be true, really. But please go ahead.
That's set 27. Sagittarius is the sculptor's vision is slowly but surely taking form.
Wow.
Oh, and Sagittarius is a visionary sign. And now we're starting to earth it, you know, we're starting to form it. And, you know, the Pluto in Capricorn is helping with that. It's back in Capricorn now until next January, in fact. So we're getting a chance to kind of reorganize even at a deeper level. There's more clearing of the space and, you know, this, you know, death of the old system furthers along, so there's more capacity for us, more room for us to reorganize and reshape things, you know. So there's the sculptor, right, that takes away the matter that is not part of the shape, the new vision, you know, what it is that we want. So there's a lot of, you know, letting go even in this beautiful artistic vision here.
Maybe you've already seen this, Kelley, and I hope I'm not going to ruin the finale, but I'm just reading the Sabian symbols in the anti-clockwise direction from Ceres to Varda to Neptune and to the new moon. And there's a beautiful journey there, really, which is being played out, right?
When I read that Neptune, a fertile garden under the full moon, that feels just, there's the earthiness, there's the bounty of the earth, there's the beauty of the earth. And with all the Taurus we have going on right now, and Jupiter is still conjuncting the south node, and Jupiter in Taurus is, you know, certainly matches that particular image as well. So that's part of our vision, you know, that's part of, you know, what we want to be living, this fertile garden under the full moon. It's just gorgeous. And
gorgeous, right? It really is. And having that, you know, the way I'm reading is having that presence to understand that it's a time for a change, that, you know, Ceres at 29 degrees of Virgo, the impetus for a change in who we are, a change in our health, a change in how we view ourselves, right? And I feel like on one level, Neptune on the opposite side is giving us that alternative of perhaps more medications or more unnatural products in that way. Which also in some ways is also reflecting the nodes finishing their jobs in Taurus and Scorpio at the moment. So it seems to me like another little counterpoise there. But as those nodes are coming up to their shifting point very, very soon, I think just after this, the length of this show really, right, into July. Do you have the dates, Kelley? I have them here somewhere.
Of what?
When the nodes are shifting, July the 18th.
So, okay. Yeah.
So, yeah, a month from now, basically, from this new moon.
Yeah, it's basically, you know, the next new moon kind of thing.
So we're being asked here, I feel, to reframe ourselves. And in the process, though, the sculptor's vision, I really feel, is the vision of New Earth that is being sculpted by each of us for ourselves, but the collective. And what I'm reading here with that fertile garden under the full moon tells me that with our new moon prayers on this new moon, that under the full moon, we will see the fertile garden starting to burst forth. And as it does, a young gypsy emerging from the woods gazes at far cities. I mean, it's like this is almost a whole story there itself, right? Looping the new moon to the full moon and back.
That one really suits you, Davyd. Yeah, and it is. It is so cohesive a story. And you know, part of the vision, right, is also part of the Neptune bringing the higher vision and more light into our vision and more into even how we're thinking. So we're more positive minded, which is so important. And right. I couldn't help but, you know, think, well, this is the new moon. Are we going to have that fertile garden on the full moon here, you know?
Well, you know what? I mean, we know that the energy of quantum now is much more present and for many more people. And, you know, as we've said before, with the rainbow journey starting today, we're all about the shift over the rainbow bridge to the quantum intelligence of New Earth. And what does that mean for everybody? So in many ways, for me, this is beautiful to see because it sums up exactly what myself and Bella are doing right now and offering that alternative, that juxtapoint to the old ways of doing healthcare, and maybe a different one that's more quantum, and a new vision is emerging of collaboration with different people, merging the worlds of science and quantum plant medicine and alchemy and chemistry. And it's like, wow, this is where we're at right now. And I really believe that within the space of 2 weeks between now and the full moon, particularly with the full moon being in Capricorn and about mastery, I really feel that we can start to think about how have we mastered our ability to manage our 3D and 4D selves. Because once we have our emotional bodies under control, our physical body will naturally follow suit into a place of health and wellness. And the less that we're, being triggered, by our traumas or by environmental conditions, the more time we have to step into our fertile garden and see where those seeds that we've sown on this new moon will have flourished. So I think it's mind-blowingly beautiful. I'm super happy.
Yes, and what was I going to say? And coming through solstice, which is such a portal of energy, and that leads to the full moon. And also today, basically not today when we're recording this, but on the new moon day, Saturn goes retrograde. Oh. And it stays at this 8-degree point for several weeks here until the full moon. So Saturn is at this 7-degree or 8-degree Sabian, a girl blowing a bugle. Looked at it, I thought it said a girl blowing a bubble. And then I realized it was bugle. And I was thinking like Saturn and a bubble. Well, anyway, I'm glad I found the bugle, because it does seem like, and they talk about, the trumpets and the bugles and the sounding is a whole biblical thing, right? It's the angels blowing their horns and the shofars and the whatever. So that this is a beautiful degree to kind of hold in on. And Saturn is basically saying, okay, I'm getting as far as we're going to get right now. So let's consolidate our gains. And because it goes all the way back to 0 Pisces.
Wow.
And then it moves forward again. So we are in a pretty strong Saturn moment of saying, okay, because this in Pisces, we're dealing with energy and flow, not hard groundedness, right? So it's more the energy. How are we shaping this energy, like the sculptor's vision? So we really do have, and this is a beautiful storyline. It's not as intense or challenging, with the eclipses and the solstice new moon we had. This is a more, Gemini is a fairly lighthearted sign. And it's working with a beautiful Ceres in Virgo. It's working with that beautiful visionary Varda, and this crafting and this sculpting, this grounding of our new vision and the beauty of this vision.
Wow, that's really beautiful, Kelley. Yeah, really feeling that. And just as you were saying about, the angels blowing the trumpets, of course, one of the things that we've talked about before is the passage in the book of Revelations when the third angel blows her trumpet and a star appears, and the star's name is Wormwood. And so that to me again speaks of some interesting times to come. And Wormwood is a very, very powerful intelligence for sure, manifesting as a plant. So I think that's really beautiful as well. But before we move on to the full moon, Kelley, I see that you've also highlighted a couple of other interesting aspects going on that perhaps you just want to talk us through.
Well, we have this ongoing nodal thing.
Tell me about it. It's still ongoing.
Pluto is still squaring the nodes and will continue to for several more months. And there's Haumea back in Libra now, but still, dancing with that south node. And she also will be doing that for a while on. And then we have the north node in Taurus. Again, that's definitely got to help with, opportunity to plant gardens. they will be productive and fertile. So this is so enriching. But the big thing that we got to, kind of look at is this really interesting trio in Leo there. And Venus is now in Leo. She's going to be in Leo until the middle of October. She's going retrograde in Leo, and we will be talking about that more. Mars is in Leo for a bit now, before it goes into Virgo. So they're kind of dancing together. And you think, oh, they're going to join up. But no, they aren't. No, they aren't. Because Venus is going to, just as she's getting closer and closer, can't get too much closer before they're conjunct, she slows down because she's going to go retrograde. And it's kind of, oh, hello, Mars. And it's like, oh, I'm not ready for you yet. I've got to come back and do some of my inner work. And, and that's a beautiful thing too. And
Coming
then
close, but no cigar, right?
well, in part because she's conjuncting the black moon as well. She's saying, oh, okay, I've got to go into that place first before I can bring more of my, emotional intelligence and divinity and soul heart connection into relationship. And she actually doesn't conjunct Mars until next February, and that will be in the sign of Aquarius. So bring me a higher love. And so this is very interesting, this kind of tango dance at the moment. But Mars is going to go on and into Virgo and take on his task. And the Venus and the Black Moon are going to have this deep, kind of call into the divine feminine and into the heart soul connection. The heart, I'm thinking of the Lilith as, that invisible point that's so connected to the earth moon, the womb, and that I'm starting to look into some teachings that talk about the sacred womb chakra, which is a whole different space where, since the Black Moon is invisible, this is too not a physicality, but that women can be more in touch with it because they actually have physical wombs, but men also have this sacred womb space where there is it's almost like the creation from the Galactic Centre, and that invisible, black hole, as they call it, that it can bring forth any potential, and Varda is bringing that through with the light. And then Venus is doing her dance with the Black Moon in a more personal way to tune into the connection between the heart and the womb. And there's a whole sort of feel of healing going on, and we'll see that in the full moon chart.
Wow. So before we go into the full moon, we'll just take a couple of moments here just to recap and bring to a place of conclusion how we're reading this new moon. So it seems pretty clear to me that we're looking at an amazing opportunity to start sculpting our dreams, our visions. And I feel for the first time in quite a long time that we have free passage and free and safe passage to do so, which really speaks to me of the opening up of the energy field of New Earth and the frequency that more and more beings are holding now for others to step into, and we are creating as we go. That's the beauty of all of this, that New Earth is being created in co-creation with Mother Earth, but with all beings here, all of us humans included, if we choose to put our attention there. So I love that, Varda, on 27 degrees. And I love the idea that also Ceres is bringing us at that 30th degree Sabian symbol there, that don't get distracted, do not get pulled left or right, even if the news or your family life or whatever is pulling you away from your center. Come back, keep on point, craft your vision, put the seeds out, and then under the full moon, maybe even a new moon, a young gypsy will appear. I think that's just, I think it's perfect. So do you have anything you wish to add to that sort of vision that we can start to hold with the sea? I mean, there's so much earth energy here, right? With the Jupiter conjuncting the North Node in Taurus, to me just feels like it's amplifying everything of that solid grassroots up energy.
And the benevolence of it, the wisdom of it, the Jupiter contains that energy. But just as you were talking about that, I hadn't noted the Saturn squaring Mercury in Gemini, its own sign, and that's also about the reception of energy and making sure you like the vibe of any information you're taking on.
I think that's a really sage piece of advice, actually. We can take a pulse, as I do, across various different channels of information, but the trick is not to get too attached to any of what you see, but just to take a pulse on it in yourself and say, well, what feels about right to me? And I'm going to go with that no matter what anybody else says. And I think that that's a very salient point, Kelley, to bring. So thank you for that. And also, we talked about this beforehand, but I'm going to introduce it now as you've talked about Lilith, but we have two of our very favorite Black Moon Lilith alignment days coming up in the next moon cycles. So please do share with us what those are, Kelley.
Okay, well, we've talked before about the black moon. There are two ways to measure its movement. One is the mean average motion forward through the zodiac, but in fact, Lilith, like the nodes of the moon, she goes retrograde a lot. So the true black moon can be in back of, in front of, in a different sign than, the mean black moon. And so we've become interested in the points where the mean and the true meet up. And there's this like flash, like the wavelength kind of goes like that. And there's a flash of something, a spark maybe from that core energy that has this divine creative potential. Yeah. So we have one of those dates on the 16th. So it's like basically on the new moon, although it's a very brief moment because the black moon, the true black moon moves so fast. It can move through, a sign in like 1 week and then go backwards. At the 16th.
Another feeling.
So that would be at 17 degrees of Leo. And then there will be another one on June 28th. And that would be at 19 plus Leo, and it's conjunct Venus as well. So a Lilith flash with Venus on it. That's probably why she starts to say, I've got something to do before I meet up with.
So what I also was just getting a comical insight to myself was that Mars is probably going to race ahead of Black Moon Lilith sometime in the upcoming days. And then it's sort of like Lilith's going to be a referee somehow between Venus and Mars briefly, while Venus says, well, I thought I was up for it, but no, I've got something else I need to do first. So I'll see you later, Mr. Mars, and we'll meet again on the other side of the circle at some point. And Lilith is going, yeah, we just need to keep things nice and calm because we've got work over here to do. And what I love about your description of that womb space, I really feel that that's what these Black Moon Lilith alignment days, as we call them, actually are. There's a sort of a moment where we've got the opportunity to use another intentional womb space to put a spark or a seed, and they're very, very brief. So Lilith really asks us to be very precise with the details. But what we're understanding from our own work is that we can use these days very much like new moons, but they're a sort of secret womb space where we can plant seeds that are completely hidden in the dark, waiting to flourish into a fertile garden, maybe under a full moon. So I think that's really beautiful.
Kind of stuff in the soil, the Black Moon is not a moon. It is not a body. It is not an object. It's like this invisible vortex sort of energy place. And so, these connected moments when there's no distortion or difference, but there's an alignment, they're like once or twice a month, basically. So those are the ones.
We encourage you all to mark your diaries, as we both do, and I have definitely got into the practice of using those days to work with manifestation protocols and energies because it's very effective. So little trade secret from myself and Kelley. So on that note, Kelley, let's have a look at the full moon and see where our prayers could take us if we're working with the flow.
Yeah. How do I get there?
I think that's the big question we've all been asking ourselves for the last 3 years, Kelley, maybe most of our life.
Oh, gosh. Okay, hold on. I want to see the sidebar now. Oh, I don't know how to get there. Oh, funny. That's too funny. Okay.
Recording in progress.
All right. So here we have the chart. And we do see the full moon. 18 at 11 degrees of Capricorn. And here it is. Opposite the sun at 11 degrees of Cancer. And I always think of the moon as including the sun and the moon. You can't have a full moon without it reflecting the light of the sun. So this is a polarity that emphasizes the two signs that inform, like one or the other side of the seesaw is informed by the other. So here is the revelation. Here is the blossoms of our fertile garden, we could say, full moon. And so it's an interesting patterning for a number of reasons. One is that Mercury's right with the sun, so we don't even see Mercury. So when Mercury is under the beams, it's like there's something about instant experience, and we don't use our minds so much. It's like an instant perception through the experience itself is part of my understanding that I'm trying to articulate by an invisible Mercury. And it's in Cancer, which is a very subjective take on things. So, in part, we need to be a little careful of that, that we're not being too subjective or taking things too personally, but that we're saying, all right, Capricorn, let's be real here. What's really going on? What is the situation? Because, we can distort, through various filters and reactivity, what is actually going on. And so we need to watch that on this full moon, but also, engage in the experiential part, and happily, the full moon is in a nice alignment with Jupiter in Taurus. So that's a earth to earth. And, I've got the whole, what half of the KBOs here, the Kuiper Belt Objects, because there seem to be so many jumping in on this full moon. But the one I'm kind of like zeroing in on is Chiron, because it squares the full moon, and it does involve that teacher healer, that alignment of spiritual, mental, emotional, and physical. So we don't want, say, our personal emotions to get too out of whack. And yet we need to kind of just, calm down and take care and kind of hunker in a little bit.
Right. So if I'm reading this correctly, it's a slightly wide orb there of 8 degrees, right, between the moon and Chiron. But you have another, there's lots of interesting symbols here, Kelley, that I've never seen before. So I'm going to take this opportunity to educate myself and hopefully our audience a bit too. So what is the shell-shaped object that is in much more tight conjunction there with the moon at 9 degrees?
The symbol, my program, Astro Gold, has specific symbols that it uses. And this is one of those. So if you give it a guess, a shell, what would you think?
Salacia?
Yes.
Oh, that wasn't prepped. Wow, that's cool. So how do you read that then? So I mean, obviously Salacia and Chiron, it's at 10 degrees. I guess it's a little wide in the conjunction there, but how do you read that in conjunction with the other bits and pieces going on over here?
Yeah, well, Salacia is even more closely square that full moon, isn't it?
Right.
If she's the light energy, she's the salt water. So we have the Cancer, which is the sea, also in the water, and we're going to put salt in that water. we're gonna vitalize it, which is also, I think, what Chiron in Aries is saying. We're going to vitalize the water, and we're going to find the delight in life. Whatever's going on, there's always something, maybe nature, right, that can make you happy, and looking at a beautiful flower or smelling the scent of the pine trees, or wherever you are, whatever, beautiful thing. And then if you go to the beach, you can watch the sunlight sparkling on the sea. And I think that's almost like Morse code for some kind of celestial message. So mindfulness to this energy. And I think that also goes along with the Venus and Mars dance that's still pretty strong here.
Okay.
As Mars is starting to get really close to Virgo. So in a few days it will go into Virgo there, and there will be Venus. Venus goes retrograde on July 22nd. So we'll be talking about that next time. But kind of right at the end of this moon cycle, then Venus is going to go retrograde. So that's part of the makeup of this moon that has some joy in it, has some creative expression in it. We've got more Leo, and actually, this is just after the solstice. I want to mention that the solstice has a moon in Leo. So it's joining that Leo. Now, in this one, we're seeing the black moon, the true black moon, being earlier in Leo. and it's conjuncting Varuna, which we've talked about as the ancient Vedic god of universal law and cosmic order. And so that is in Leo also with the black moon. And I wanted to bring that out because it's that black moon is no fooling around. You know, you need to be authentic. And people use that phrase, be in our sovereignty. You know, that is so Leo. And that is so the calling of the summer with the Mars and Venus here, the Venus retrograde continuing in that sign with the black moon that's saying, go deep to find that. Come from your soul essence place. And that's where, you are going to be in cosmic alignment with the heart. So I just wanted to point those out.
Feels kind of primal, that energy there, with Varda conjunct Black Moon, Lilith and Leo, that kind of sense of universal law and cosmic order, and Lilith's sort of attention to, to justice and sovereignty. And Leo is all about sovereignty and expression of that. So again, I feel like the full moon is showing us with this interesting, I wouldn't say little conjunction, because I don't think Lilith would appreciate that, but this perhaps a slightly less observed conjunction here in Leo, which is often where we find the nuances with these KBOs, which I think is so delightful.
Yes, Lilith and Varuna, who's going to pick up? Lilith and Varuna, who's going to pick up?
I don't think I want to get in the middle of that one, to be honest. Deciding who's right between divine cosmic order and universal law and Lilith. So I think I'll leave that up to another more able referee than myself.
We look at Lilith as the divine feminine, and this aligns beautifully.
Yeah.
Mm.
Absolutely. So I think that this is really interesting. And so I'm looking across now to the other symbols around the moon, because they're also new to me. So what do we have at that 7 degrees and that 3 degrees of Capricorn?
Okay, so 7 degrees, there's a Q. So that would be Quawar.
Wow. Okay. Yes, that's quite obvious, really. So tell us about Quara on the mix, and just also bringing the other symbol at the same time, Kelley, the one at 3 degrees. Is that Wheel of Fortune, or no? What is that?
This is Ixion tied to the wheel. Rolling in the underworld, repeating, show gratitude to your benefactor to try to get off the karmic wheel.
Right.
So there's something here about that karmic wheel, that giving gratitude by celebrating, singing and dancing with the cosmic energies and bringing that celebratory energy into our creative process. And Capricorn says that's what's going to work. That's sustainable. And so there's that, that moon in Capricorn as well, which is, that part of the shaping, part of the sculptor shaping that vision, experiencing it. And these energies help create that. We have to let the past go,
for sure.
to, kind of get off that wheel. And I'm starting to see that this new era has such new energy that, we can't carry those old things, be they, the old karmas or the old agreements or whatever we want to call those. We have to work a lot of that through. And I think that task at hand that Ceres was indicating on the new moon is potentially fulfilled here if we really are rigorous about that work we're doing. And Saturn cooperates. Saturn's in a nice alignment with that full moon, saying, okay, you're keeping on track here. You're keeping it together. You're keeping the negativity away. You're working on your own, issues that are, blocking you or not coming to fruition in a way because they're not appropriate. So what else do you have to leave behind, get out of your suitcase because you can't carry all of it, kind of thing.
Right. Yeah. And as you're saying that, the image I'm getting here looking at the chart is on the one hand, sort of the moon is passing over and putting out sort of a light on this energy that's already at work in Capricorn, a sort of a more creative rebalancing of that top-down structure. Meanwhile, our good old friend Pluto is coming in the opposite direction, like a wrecking ball, smashing all of that terrain, so that when all of this energy starts to move forwards, it has a clean template in which to move into, because the wrecking ball effect of Pluto and Capricorn has removed the old. So we don't have to put up with that creaking old structure anymore. We have a clean template from the Galactic Centre with Varda holding the space. I mean, you can't make this stuff up, right? Still
letting go. The South Node is still in Scorpio. And you know, and also the Capricorn opposition to Cancer, you know, and that personal subjective take on things like, oh, I want to bring this because I'm so attached to it, and it's my favorite teacup, and you know, whatever. And it's like, do you really need it? You know, what about your attachments? What about, you know, so you know, if it's not useful, you can't, you know, sentiment is not often useful. I mean, the sentimentalism is what I mean.
Well, I mean, sentimentalism is an energy that I often associate with the stellar nations of the dragons. Dragons can be incredibly sentimental and have a tendency to hoard their gold. Very jealously sometimes. So if you put things into that context, hoarding things is never such a great idea, and freeing things up. Gold is not really any use to anybody when it's in that capacity anyway, when it's just being stored. Or you can look at it as abundance or wealth. And my geomancy teacher, Dr. Patrick Manaway, always said that, you know, money is energy. And, you know, let it flow through your hands. And, you know, in Buddhism also, we're told two major afflictions that humans have to work their way through is being either averse to something or somewhat attached to something. And attachments and aversions are what cause most of our suffering. And if you meditate on that at length, as I have, you will find that it's true. And so when we become so attached to something that we're willing to make a decision that's not for our own best interest, that's when we need to have a look at what we're holding on to. So I think that's a really important point, Kelley, and thanks for bringing it up. So you know what, I just want to put a big shout out to all of the fellow Scorpions who have messaged me over the last month or so after sharing my nodal reversal return, both here with Kelley and also with Pam. I feel you all. I got all of your messages and emails, and it seems like many of us have been having similar experiences right now. So I just wanted to give a shout out to all of you for those messages. And my great feline cat is trying to wander across my keyboard, so sorry about that. So yes, I mean, look, there's so much here that's intriguing me, Kelley. So I'll let you guide us around what you think is interesting, and I'll maybe interject with some questions here and there.
Well, I'm going to follow up on what you just said and note that this mysterious, compelling two black moon Varuna is squaring the nodes, helping us, challenging us with that letting go and what's valuable enough to keep with us. Like if you're going across, you know, like many people did, you know, wagon trains heading west in the old US, you need food, you need, you know, goods, you know, you can't take too many things. Maybe each one gets like one thing, you know, one sentimental thing they can take along. It's also like I've thought of it this way. Because I'm trying to simplify where I am. I think that's very Capricorn, order, you know. But part of the questioning I am like, what is it I really care about? Which means, what am I caring for? What are the things I like enough that I'm using them? I'm keeping them in good shape. Like I'm caring for them. You know, just if I have a little favorite knickknack or something on a shelf and it's gathering dust, why is it there?
Well, I think that's really, the importance of prepping, Kelley, is really important. I just was glancing through my diary just a second ago, and I'd written on the new moon with the energies that we've already talked about. Let me just see if I can find it 1 second. I put quote unquote for some reason, how did I not see that coming? Every change of circumstance is an opportunity. And I think that those opportunities can be best utilized if we are somewhat prepared for them and don't get caught with our pants down, so to speak, and that we then suddenly not heading out on a frontier trail, realizing that the back of our wagon is completely empty and we don't have any crockery, cutlery, food, anything like that. And we're like, oh my God, I don't think I'm that prepared for this journey. So I just want to reiterate that the journey to New Earth is some sort of journey, actually, and there is some sort of process of preparation, particularly if you want to create space, as indeed we are currently with the Rainbow Bridge that we're running. It's like we've had to prepare a lot energetically, physically, because we want to be in a place of focusing on ourselves, like that 30 degrees of Virgo, not to be distracted from the task in hand, whether it's holding space for others in this case, but actually also holding space for ourselves, so that we've given ourselves the space to receive the visions that we planted on the new moon into their fullest illumination on the full moon. So I think that this is very, very apt, and we have been encouraging many of our listeners over various shows to think of the ark as an important motif, and that can be our home, it can be where we live, but it can also be our spiritual vessel, which is our body. You know, again, the fractal, myself is the ark, my home is the ark, my community is my ark, etc., 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 you know, all the way out. And so we can be more calm and rest assured about the journey ahead. You know, I think it is very much like a Viking longboat journey to Valhalla. We're setting off, many of us from many different tribes, all with our Viking longboats. We don't really have a map, but we do trust our ability to read the stars. And we know that on the other side of the ocean is a land which we can all set foot on and dare to dream of a new place to create a new Earth, as indeed many explorers of the past have done. But this time, we're not going to do it from the place of appropriation. We're going to do it from the place of co-creation. So I think that's a really important point, Kelley. So thank you for bringing that up.
What you were just talking about reminds me of Crosby, Stills and Nash and Young song, Wooden Ships. It works in a way. They push off after the wars, you know, and they're on different sides, but it's like, hey, can I have some of those berries? And it's like, hey, okay, who won? Do you know? And then they push off, you know, wooden ships, you know, we're heading out. You don't need us if you're staying back there, if you're, you know, but it's also like the Cancer is well supported by Jupiter and Taurus here too. So that's nice. Those signs both like security and stability, and where do we find it? And, you know, it also reminds me of like, you know, if you had to leave your house really fast, what would you take with you? That's another way of looking at what's really important. What do you need? You know, it's like the bug out bag, you know, kind of exercise. What do you have in that backpack you can just pick up and grab and go?
Right. And I think that what you said is so important. It's like, you know, be economical with what you believe you need for the journey, however you set your journey up for yourself, however it looks to you. I definitely, from personal experience, have learned that slimming down and releasing myself from items of the past actually releases many emotions and energies attached to those items. And it's cathartic to put a lot of your personal possessions into a skip or to give away to charity or whatever, you know, or even to burn in some cases. But at the same time, there's a freeing up of the load that comes with that is difficult to describe until you do it. So I definitely recommend to all people, have a look at what you're carrying with you, either energetically or literally physically. Because I think that lightening the load, you know, if we get onto our Viking longboats and we bought like 2 houses worth of stuff, the boat's going to sink. That's not a very clever way to start your journey, right? So I think these motifs, particularly with Capricorn, are particularly asking us to think practical. Think about how this has worked from the logistical step before, because logistics and details are important, even on a spiritual journey, right?
Yeah. Well, Pluto's back. That's a perfect time to clean your closets, to, you know, look at what you use and what you don't use, and give it to people who can use it, you know. And yes, things hold sentiment, things hold memories. How much of that do we need, you know, also, you know, and it's in our hearts, you know. We don't always need all the mementos, right? And you know, that can be challenging, but it's also like an emotional cleansing, and this is a perfect full moon for that.
Yeah, I definitely see that. And before we kind of take the chart down, I'd just like to get you to quickly skim around some of the other intriguing symbols so we can start to also fill in some blanks for our audience. So tell me, what do we have down here at 13 degrees of, I guess that's Virgo?
So this is Orcus, who is the maker and breaker of oaths. And we talked about that in relation to the last moon cycle. I think it was, because it was really strong there. And it's about, breaking agreements that it's like stuff in the house. You can't carry them along with you. They bind you, they limit you. And so that one, we have Ceres here. This is Maki Maki from the Rapa Nui culture, Easter Island. And it's about, there are many themes to it. I'm sure soon we'll be talking about that more. This is Haumea. And then let's see, this is Characlo, that beautiful, partner of Chiron, and they're in a nice alignment right now. And she's helping hold the energy for groups and, for, your Rainbow Bridge group, any group, a social alignment. And it's really going to help that energy of bringing people together who are on this creative path and feeling that sovereignty and wanting to kind of share that creative process. So I think that's all of them.
I think so. So I just want to ask, I'm just looking at particularly Orcus at 13 degrees. It seems to be an aspect to a couple of the others. So do you want to talk about that a little bit? Because Orcus, I think, is very important right now.
Well, it certainly is in a nice alignment with the full moon, isn't it?
Right. Yeah.
So this is a good time to kind of sort through your priorities and, again, come back to nature and what is organically still in resonance for you. And then let go if it's like out of whack, or if it's like at the bottom of your list, or doesn't even make the list, so, and this is like, I think, forging a new agreement with your body. Let's work together here. How about that? Isn't that a good one?
I think that's great. And actually that fits again with what we talked about on the new moon, right? Making those adjustments or those choices. I'm doing this for myself because I want to be fit, strong, healthy, and happy, and having fun and being filled with joy. And if your body is in pain and aching and creaking, it's not so easy to do that, in my experience. And so I feel like we are really being encouraged to look into this amazing piece of kit. I am increasingly blown away by what I realized that this spacesuit actually is. And, it's not only a toroidal field, a nuclear reactor, a manifestation point, but it turns out it's also a wormhole into the rest of the galaxy if I go inwards enough. So I'm wondering what can't my body do actually? And I think that this is the journey into the quantum understanding of who we are and what this amazing piece of technology really is. And perhaps we're upgrading now from a sort of horse-drawn cart version of ourselves to a spaceship, so that we can remember our galactic selves and start to dream of a different way of being. And I think that this new moon and full moon, Kelley, feels very uplifting. Sometimes I feel that we're looking for the positive notes, sometimes in the debris of what's going on, and the KBOs have offered that. But this genuinely feels like that we are now being offered something out. Maybe the worst of the drama is behind us, and now we can look forward to healing, different choices, different ways of doing things, and maybe from a different type of structure forming within Capricorn rather than the one that we had before.
Well, I think we've still got a lot of drama with all this in Leo and the Venus retrograde in Leo, but it could be delightfully creative. Like there's more space that we can create in without feeling bound or hampered.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then we can also see more clearly what more, we do need to let go of. We do need to make space, because Pluto is ready to open up into a new way of living. But we've got these months that we can work with, and let's have fun with it. Let's have a clothes trade. Let's have let's go to the flea market. Let's so
differently, right? Exactly. So okay, let's take the screen down and we'll do our wrap-up thoughts. There was something I had there, but it's gone. Maybe it'll come back in the wrap-up. So this has been a very enjoyable look, I think, at the upcoming moon cycles. As always, we've tried to focus on some of the KBOs. And do you have any final thoughts? I think we've done a pretty comprehensive job here, Kelley. I've enjoyed this one a lot, but anything else you want to add as a little sort of sweetener on top, or do you think we've covered it all?
Well, I keep going back to here's the Gemini, and we're moving into the Cancer, and solstice right there on that cusp. And I think there's some, pretty beautiful energies on that solstice. I think it has a Varuna energy also. And so I think this is very promising in terms of like the energies opening up. So and that to me, that's just a beautiful, it's like, Gemini is all the flowers in the garden. There's so many different ones that make the garden beautiful and fertile. Yeah.
Ah, lovely, lovely. And what I was just, the thought came back to me as Pluto comes back into Capricorn and creates the space. This is something that you learn as a healer, is that you can't just leave a vacuum. Otherwise, all sorts of things can jump into it. So it's good to have your vision, your sculpted vision, your preparation. So as the ground in front of you becomes clear for you to plant your seeds in new fertile ground, you're assuring yourself that whatever you want to grow around you will indeed burst forth and create whatever vision it is that you've sculpted in your mind. And that is the journey from 5D manifestation energies down into the 3D, 4D world, which I believe is really what this whole gig is about, becoming multidimensional beings in an embodied form down here in the beauty that is Mother Earth and the 3D realm. So on that beautiful note, Kelley, please do, as always, share with the audience where they can find you on the internet.
Heliastar.com, HELIASTAR.com. And that doesn't have all my activities, but so I got to do something about that.
Well, maybe that's part of your new moon press, but I just want to hold up my printed copy of the newsletter. Yeah, please just share about that a little bit.
Yeah, you've got to sign up for that, because I don't put all of the activity information about what I'm doing and what I'm offering on my website. I know that's an oversight, but sign up for the newsletter. You'll get it in the email, and it's my newsletter that goes along very well with this video. It's always expressed differently because it's in words, but then at the bottom I have all of my activities and what's going on, and so that's a good place.
Exactly. I just want to say this is a very good place to write notes. Whenever I'm listening to anybody's astrology shows, or even listening to this one back, I make notes all over the place. So this is a very handy guide for that. But also, do you have any upcoming talks or anything, Kelley, that you're doing that you can share with people? I know you've got a busy diary coming up.
Well, I'm part of this Rebecoming the One symposium. It's all month. And I just gave a workshop on the cosmic feminine, looking at the relationship with the moon, Venus, and black moon. That was well received, and that's a small fee for that. But there are all these astrologers and other people, it's not just astrology, that we're talking a lot about the divine masculine and feminine. And my talk is coming out the last week of June, and it's on cosmic couples. And I'm talking about different pairs like Characlo and Chiron and Neptune and Salacia, and what we can learn from those cosmic relationships. And I'm doing that talk again in October with the Cosmic Intelligence Agency out of Australia.
Wow.
So at the end of September, I'm doing talking about all 4 of the Liliths. With the astrology group from Zane Stein's astrology group in Australia. And let's see, what else am I doing? I'm having a live workshop on October 8th in Vermont at the center called Ubuntu. And, we're just kind of getting that together. And I think that's everything, but thanks for asking me. And while we're on this basic what are we into topic, Davyd, I want to, if people haven't heard your interview with Nicholas Benjamin that just came out, that is worth listening to.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I wasn't going to mention that actually because I've got a few other things on my mind, but sure, I just was lucky enough to do an interview with Nick Benjamin on his Telegram channel where the plants definitely were talking through me, and for sure I don't think I was pulling too many punches with what I said, so please do feel free to check that out. But also just wanted to add in a couple of things from our side too. We have just started the Rainbow Bridge today. We are holding the bridge open for a few more days until the I think the 16th 17th of June. For any of you that may be hearing about this late, please do check that out on quantumplanthealing.com. All of the links to everything me and Kelley are talking about in the show notes. And also, I just want to give another shout out about the video that me and Kelley did about the asteroid 944, otherwise known as Hidalgo, part of a new series that we have on our YouTube channel called Asteroids and Avatars, but also it's now on the new burgeoning astrology library that we have created on the new project that myself and Bella have launched called quantumplanet.world. And as me and Kelley alluded to at the beginning, we do hope to be able to do more special deep dive issues which can be downloaded from that part of the website in the future on all manner of other flying objects in our sky. And as one final addendum to all of this, another project to point everybody towards, which is working with the fixed star astrology of the stellar nations. Myself, Bella, and the wonderful Leslie Shankman are working with that incredible tome of material from the two wonderful ladies, Dr. Beatrice and Aniko in Hungary, who brought that material through just over a decade ago. So that's another aspect of cosmology that we're looking at, and I'll put the show notes in there. We just started today the wonderful 13-part journey with the Unicorn Nation. Really, really profound soul stuff. So just wanted to share that too. Yeah. So, Kelley, final words for everybody before we say cheerio?
That full moon is very close to the star Sirius. Gotta just say that. Just gotta pick up on that little hook.
Alrighty.
You know, we might be in a solar system that is a double star with Sirius. Sirius is a very high star. So, you know, pick up on that. Yeah.
Well, everything's going to get pretty cosmic for sure. And I feel like me and Kelley have done a good job here of paving the way to a much more cosmic way of looking at things. And as always, I want to thank you, Kelley, for your wonderful research and wisdom and knowledge in sharing today's show. I always learn so much from these and have now my own plan set for New Moon. So thank you very much. I'm feeling very good about things. I feel like we are now able to really call forth our visions of New Earth. So thank you, Kelley, for sharing. Thank you, everybody, for listening. This has been Moons and Mythos number 11 with myself, Davyd Farrell, and astrologer Kelley Hunter. We look forward to seeing you all very soon. Take it easy. Ciao for now.